talk to something again.
Ready sympathize to all the dead ends. Realize with the mind lies vision.
Don't got to do the vision, cosmically efficient when I follow through with my mission.
You're gonna get, receive what's sent. Stop the eye, but this is just a
So yeah, this is the Desert Dro Show music art podcast. I am Brody. I make music under the name Broderick. I play drums for this band called Safe Haven here in Austin, and yeah, you know, this is a podcast meant to kind of start a little bit of a scene, get a little bit of an online presence going for Austin. And
Heck yeah.
Our artist friends.
Oh, yeah.
You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
I am Jordan. Currently using the moniker Joe Simone for some solo stuff right now. We're here today under the umbrella of rehearsal for some of our collaborative efforts that are going to be coming to fruition pretty soon. But on the side, we have been putting a lot of our effort towards making Desert Dro a platform that people actually want to be a part of. So this is us getting straight to it, you know, shooting the podcast.
Yeah. This really was meant to be like a recording / rehearsal day, but
Yeah.
we kind of swapped it around and brought out the newly acquired gimbal tripod, set up the phone and the mics, and got the podcast rolling, you know, and kind of a demo type thing. We'll see if this gets posted. It'll be interesting. Maybe there are listeners. Hello. But yeah, this is just our attempt at getting a little thing going, you know, like getting a thing where our friends could hop on and
Right.
talk
They
about.
can actually have an outlet.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's so many cool artists here in Austin, but they're so really cool. There's very little in the way of ways to advertise yourself meaningfully here in
Yeah.
Austin, it feels like.
Yeah. Especially meaningfully. I feel like that's a big part of the Desert Dro thing right now. It's trying to have something different. You know, we're not just getting swamped.
Trying to do something different and very, very. We're just trying to be authentic.
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
is a good way. That if there's any trepidation, kind of like hesitation on this side of things, it's definitely because we want to do it right. You know, I've been working on a project, it feels like now, for like 6 months, and it's just that thing of like you want to get it tight. You know, it's the same way with Desert Dro. You want to make sure it's cohesive.
Yeah.
And we're actually putting ourselves forward in the way that is real. We want to be able to offer our resources for our friends and artists and kind of collaborate in meaningful ways and just get that going, you know. And
Right. This is definitely, in my eyes, a great first step for what we're trying to do, you know.
yes, and
We got to be the ones to push the envelope a little bit and the creative endeavors, you know. Not that this is the most revolutionary thing in the world, but
yeah,
we're trying to propel our immediate clique, you know.
definitely. It's you know, we will always be kind of inspired by those that came before us to, you know, that helped get them and their friends kind of off the ground and stuff. Like, I don't know, this is random, but dude, I just heard that like in King of the Hill, like all the voice actors are just like Mike Judge's friends.
That's awesome.
He was like, hey, you do this one impression of this random other guy that I heard you do once, and that'll be the voice of Dale. And the guy's like, man, no one will get the joke because they don't know the guy I was doing an impression of. He's not famous.
Right.
And he was like, it doesn't matter. It's a funny voice.
Sure.
And then that's Dale, you know, and I don't know. I feel like we just want to play kind of fun loose with it. Hence this being super impromptu podcasting. that you're
Right.
receiving on the audience side of things.
But I get what
And
you're saying about this Dale analogy, you know. It is just grassroots. He's trying to have his friends involved.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the future, the goal is hopefully to have, at first, of course, our friends on, you know, and so they can showcase their talents and skills because they are inspirations for us to do these things that we're doing here.
Very much so. Very much so. Bandmates, friends, just everyone around us here in Austin. There's a healthy amount of people that are available to be inspired by it. Feels like
Absolutely.
It's really cool. It's really cool. We actually come out of Arizona. We met in high school in Casa Grande.
Oh
You know,
yeah, throwback.
that was our thing. Yep. Excuse me. And yeah, we came out here trying to seek a little bit more of a scene because Arizona has. We were talking about it a little bit earlier, and like, there's a scene there, but it's much harder than Austin to get really out.
Any
of-
traction.
There's no yeah.
Yeah,
you know.
it feels central. I don't know. I'm in no way am I trying to diss any scene that I'm not a part of immediately, but I don't know. Outside looking in, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of potential to grow, really, to like actually propel yourself and your ideas to a meaningful place. I don't know. People still go hard out there. Like I cannot criticize anybody out there, but
Yeah, and
it's so stagnant. It feels.
very, and I think it's more on the industry side of things. Like there's still, like I said about Austin, there's a lot of people there that are available to be inspired by, but they don't have access to the resources that people in some of these major music cities have access to, such as venues,
Right.
or
Not a surplus of them.
yeah, it's rough. So
Access to certain things.
yeah,
But
so
I mean, hey, it is pretty much as simple as doing it off your phone and getting mic'd up,
yeah, that's how we all started the
Yep.
Fruity Loops mobile and
Hell yeah. Oh man, Fruity Loops Mobile is a goat.
Koala.
Oh, man.
Koala's my goat, dude. That's that thing. I discovered it like maybe 3-4 years ago back in Arizona, and now it's like it feels like an NPC. It's nuts. That app is so crazy. But
Just crazy powerful, yeah.
yeah, but FL Studio, GarageBand, they're all so capable nowadays.
Oh yeah.
And there's so many people who are doing stuff on it there, but it's just hard. It's hard to really make a name, gain traction in Arizona, in particular. It's obviously hard for everyone everywhere, but
Oh yeah.
it's a difficult thing. So we came out here and we've met a lot of cool people, and we just want to get a cool scene going, whether that's local, online, or both. And
I think of
yeah.
it more in the mental. Like these are all like-minded people, and if it is something that takes root more in an online presence, then so be it. I'm trying to get in connection with those people, who are really trying to come together and make their ideas come about.
Yeah, no, very much so, very much so. That is kind of the
Hell yeah. So come on. Hit us up.
yeah, and kind of we don't really mind what genre you want to make. We'd love to collaborate, help where we can. Just know you guys, know anyone here in the Austin scene. It's a lot of fun. I love it out here. It's just cool. A lot of venues, a lot of shows, a lot of good music being made by really cool individuals. It's a good time.
Oh yeah. Have you touched on Safe Haven? Yeah.
Yeah. Safe Haven is they might be where we get a few of our first guests later. They're my first, or they're my band, and we got a couple of other people in there that will probably be our first guests. We got Austin, the lead singer, guitar player, kind of the main mover of things, and then John, the bassist. He's like a genius, it feels like, about music theory. He's that guy. He's the one that makes sure we're grounded in that way. Yeah. So, but they'll probably come in and be guests on a few of our podcasts here and there, and it'll be a lot of fun because Austin is, he's got energy. He's got a lot to talk about, and John's so knowledgeable about like so many different kinds of music. I feel like all the above could be a lot of fun, to talk to.
Plenty of people that, man, we too many names really to just drop. I feel like.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys
and
will meet
those
him.
who are yet to come. But it is also exciting. It's easy to get jazzed about it all and about the inner workings of what we want to actually have happen.
Exactly. We got this inconspicuous iPad here. This inconspicuous iPad that is going to help us stay on track.
Right.
Because
we are neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And it is hard to pay attention sometimes.
Yeah. Dude, I've been thinking about like a book series that I don't think I read, but I read like the first chapter of called Divergent.
Oh.
And I don't know. I'm like, I wonder if that book was about neurodivergent people. I have no clue. Maybe I'm just, I don't know. This is a random thing, but
it kind of sounds like a movie. I think it was called like Insurgency or something.
Ooh.
These people could bend bullets with their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they would like shoot a bullet from their 9mm, and with their telepathic in-tuneness of their brain, they would curve the bullet to go like around corners, and they were assassins. It might not be called Insurgency. It might be Divergent.
That's the That's the name of the movie. Yeah, that's the name of the
movie.
The book
The
series.
book?
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
book.
no, then it
but
must be this.
It's a book, and it's also a movie, and but I think it was also a movie. I don't really know, but
Most movies are just books.
that's very true.
Yeah.
Is a script a book?
No, not necessarily. I think just a lot of plots come from books.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot of original stuff coming out anymore.
That's fair. That's fair. We've been we've been kind of holding off on talking about some stuff like movies and games and stuff we've been playing up until later in the podcast, but it'll be a treat to talk about.
I know it is really meta. This first this 0.5,
Yeah.
right before like the first actual thing. It's interesting. Like all we can really talk about is why we're doing this and like how we're executing it. Really, there's like wishy-washy things we could probably talk about, but
yeah, such as the fact that you are looking at us from a phone angle that is being captured with a $100 newly acquired gimbal on top of Clue, the board game, which is on top of a Ouija board.
right on
Like
top of 2 drum heads.
Yep, on top of 2 drum heads.
Yep.
This is a thing. This is as DIY as it gets. It feels like.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah. It's. I don't even know where I was going with that. Yeah.
I mean, it's all right.
We appreciate you guys for sticking with it and for hopefully joining us in the future. Where we bring you more music and art. I got this project I'm working on, as well as I'm mixing the new Safe Haven album, and the new single Pistol is already out, and by the time you guys are hearing this, the other new single Agbanji might already be out. It's exciting, and
Why don't you talk more about the solo project?
I'm working on a solo project called Crude and Short. It's kind of like a mixtape. I'm gonna have fun with it. I'm gonna try to kind of make it an audio experience. I'm doing a lot of sampling on the first half. The way I'm kind of thinking of it is like side A, side B. Side A is gonna try to be a lot of kind of noticeable samples, hopefully, and lot of jams, mainly kind of high energy. And meanwhile, the latter half is going to be a lot more lo-fi, grimy kind of.
I see.
And shorter. Like the first one's going to be more like songwriting and sampling, and then the second one's going to be more like texture and like solos, whether that be like verses that I'm proud of, or that is, cool little instrumental bits I come up with. But the second half's going to be darker for sure. That's kind of the thing. So the first half is crude, a lot of samples, kind of silly, kind of high energy. The second half is going to be short, real straight to the point and real
short. What isn't there to get?
What isn't there to get, That's the idea that's what I'm working on right now. That's my solo project, Crude and Short. It'll be by Broderick. I don't know when it's coming out, but I guess stay tuned. I'm speaking it into existence here. You know,
Absolutely. That's what this should be. Speaking to existence.
Yep. Speaking all this.
Episode 1.
Episode 1. Speaking into existence.
Speaking into existence.
We got our title here.
There you go.
Speaking into existence.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just like that. Type it down. Why don't you go for it and put it down?
Speaking into existence.
There you go.
I got you.
That's how you do that, guys.
Yep. You write stuff down. Speaking.
I've only been working on a couple of singles for my solo endeavors right now. Really, our stuff has been kind of taking up most of my practice time. Is just working on that sort of thing, which is cool because it is probably going to be the most immediate thing that you and I are taking live. So it's fun to be working on that, knowing that it'll go somewhere, rather than being so focused on my solo stuff and it only satisfying me. I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's any sort of greater cause other than myself.
That makes sense. I get it. I've been working a lot on our stuff as well, and kind of in place of crude and short at times, because it feels like while I can't always be peak Brody and therefore should be writing down and like working on my solo Broderick stuff, I can always be Brody in what I can add to our collaborative effort. That at the moment we're still deciding the name, so we will just be alluding to it, but it's a lot of fun. We already got a few songs and their names down, and some verses and some most of the instrumentals. It's pretty fun.
Well, do you want to go in on it? We can kind of dive in on it if you want. We don't have to. I like keeping up the mystique of the workflow for now.
Yeah, let's keep it a little bit of a mystery. I feel like give them something to.
Stuff is coming.
Stuff is coming between the two of us, between your co-hosts, right in front of your eyes and ears,
right in front of your eye holes, in between the palms of your hand. You hold the power of the sun in the palm of your hand.
Man, I remember there's a Naruto character who has like an eye. He has an eye on his palm, I think. And I think it was like it did something. I never really watched a whole lot of Naruto, but like his eye it had like a power or something. And I remember being like, I'm gonna have one of those when I'm older. And I'm gonna be like,
2 of those.
You have 2 of those?
In my head right now.
Whoa. The third eye too. Never forget.
Some like to speculate, yeah.
But yeah, man. It's our collaborative project is definitely kind of almost like a safe thing for me to work on.
Absolutely. I mean, I can say that just because it's what I'm gravitating towards most of the time as far as rehearsing things goes, like working on just playing and mastering all of that, the choreography of all of that and what that's going to end up looking like.
Yeah.
It's usually immediately what I go towards. However, I got the baritone.
Ooh. And
it has been funky to play the stuff on there. So having that has opened up another door for mostly my solo stuff right now. It's been driving me to just demo more stuff, so that's cool. However, any like concept for a big project right now hasn't really come to me at all.
Yeah, he's referring to a baritone guitar that he acquired recently. It's a beauty, by the way. It's a Telecaster?
Yeah, it is a Telecaster. Yeah, it's nice to have like a good quality instrument in my possession. Finally, everything else I had was so punk. It was like just fucking grimy, man. It was not good.
Sonic Youth type vibes.
Yeah, man. I was literally calling my guitar POS because it's a piece of shit, man. No offense, though. I mean, hey, you get the job done with whatever you got, right?
That's true,
you
man.
Make music with it.
And I feel like a lot of that ends up being like the people who just use what's right in front of them or what feels good for them to make music on.
Yeah, and that tends to have more nicheness and nuance in that, and I think that's good. I think that's what needs to happen right now rather than like overproduction. That's usually the biggest concern that comes to mind when I think about our stuff right now, is that we're in the stew so much, and that's kind of like where we'll live, just in the recording process, that it's easy to get carried away with the production. The style of music lends itself to that just a little bit, so that's a little bit of a saving grace. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I find myself in my workflow going into my DAW and whatnot, it's a little animalistic, amateur, whatever you want to say. I mean, it gets the job done for me.
Yeah, I whenever you create, I feel like that's a very ubiquitous feeling, I feel like, amongst artists. It's kind of like, I have to make something now. Well, I don't get to bring all of my tools to every new creative endeavor. I kind of got to pick and choose.
How do you mean all of your tools?
Well, I just mean like, okay, I'm trying to get my music degree, my associates here at the community college at Austin. Very prestigious. And I can't necessarily always bring everything I'm learning in there that I think is cool, that I want to apply to our collaborative project or my solo project in every song. So I kind of have to arbitrarily be like, okay, well, am I going to kind of try to be more minimalistic and make that be like kind of a cool vibe, or am I going to go super overproductive, super like tailored, and
like hyper pop?
Yeah, because I'm a composition major, so it's like, am I gonna pull out all the bells and whistles, or am I gonna exercise minimalism in this? And it's kind of like, you can't really do both at the exact same time. You can like make a piece where it like goes from one to the other, but the idea of doing both at the same time, like I'm gonna be super maximalist and minimalist.
Where would you say, if you had to pick an extreme, where's Crude and Short falling? I'm assuming minimal with a name.
Probably,
because I luckily have kept myself from hearing too much of it and spoiling it for myself.
Yeah, I would probably say it lends itself towards almost being more towards the maximalist side of things. But only because I think,
just because of the style of music.
Yeah. Like just because me and you are kind of like audio junkies. It's kind of like, well, I'm not gonna have 3 tracks in a song. I'm gonna have 8, and it's gonna have the exact same effects as maybe what could be achieved with 3. But now I have control over it all, and and that's kind of the way it's been going about. And we were talking about it on our like little demo show. Kind of. It'd be interesting. We ought to maybe dive into some of the stuff we talked about on there. But I kind of brought up how the hardest part for me on Crude and Short is making sure I know that the idea I have is going to be something I like in the long term.
Right. And being critical of all the execution in that, because it has to fit this criteria rather than just making music that you're comfortable with first. Almost, it's got to kind of meet this artistic vision first.
Very much so. Yep.
That's been I've been on like the opposite wavelength, at least this past couple of weeks, where I'm kind of working on solo stuff every now and then, but it feels very disco in that it's just like one-shot tracks. Whether that they're not necessarily disco tracks, so I'll make all kinds of weird music too, but it still feels like I'll just sometimes I just make too much music. Like it's too varied, and none of it could really be tied together onto one body of work. So it's just all over the place.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a very, it reminds me of that, like, Mac, we've talked about it many times, me and you, that new Mac DeMarco project.
Oh, yeah. One Wayne.
It's called One Wayne.
Yeah, One Wayne G.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't even know that was the title. I remember I saw the cover and I liked is that blue thing. I think.
It was like some eyes, I believe.
Shoot, maybe I haven't seen it, but
I don't know,
fan.
man. like not. It really just reminds me of the hymns and the here's, not to like address things that from a viewer perspective would be like an inside joke, at least currently. It is just, I don't know, I can't take myself seriously if I did that, to just have so much music all vaulted up and then just dropping it. That feels lazy. I don't know, that feels lazy, like you're turning into to like TikTok, really, like you're just having fodder.
Yeah.
I totally get it though. That itch is definitely there all the time. Where I'm like, oh my god, these are fine. These are okay. I can do them. So maybe that's why I enjoy working on our collab so much, because I know I'm like, I'm gonna take this live, so I can focus on that and give it this sense of realism, rather than going into my next single that I'm gonna make in an hour and going at it like with a composer standpoint of just being like all the bells and whistles, like you said,
Yeah.
and just
100%.
throwing everything out there. So then there's no concept. It's cool that you have a narrative concept already. I mean, some come and go with me. It's just there isn't one that I'm super in love with right now.
Yeah. And it isn't that's such a, yeah. That was my thing with Crude and Short for a long time. Like I got the name.
Did it come subsequently after doing all of the dailies and stuff? Like the idea for Crude and Short, it's kind of like, well, these have maybe become so crude and short. I'm just kind of making whatever now, putting myself through the ringer with that idea.
Yeah, a little bit. We should maybe talk
Preface
about them
it
a little bit. But like, yeah, the thing was almost like, man, I do have a little bit of, I'm just making stuff, and I'm kind of having like two kind of dichotomies in the way I make stuff. It's like almost like crude, or it's like really short if it's like really cool. Like if it's something that I think everyone is going to think is cool, it's typically short. And if it's something that I really like and it's kind of a long form idea songwriting thing, it's probably kind of silly and crude, in a way, some would say. So like it was almost me trying to be like, my first project is going to be named the two criticisms I could imagine people having for my first project.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it kind of turned into like, oh, I should just lean into that, like make that be like the side A and the side B, and maybe
And
make the crude,
contextualize it a little bit.
yeah, make crude be like a fun thing and make short be like a fun thing.
Hell yeah, like with purpose.
Exactly.
Man, like, who else dropped something that was just old fodder? Was I think it was, man, I don't know which one, but it was one of the Garden Twins.
Oh,
And they dropped like just probably stuff they had from COVID, really. And I'm not sure that it's like a trend I want to hop on, because it would be pretty easy to hop on the trend of that one in particular. Do you want to preface it a bit?
Oh yeah, like the hymns and the dailies.
Hymns.
Yeah. So I did this project called the hymns or the hymns a long time ago. Like maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah,
a year ago.
And a half or so.
And it was for 50 days in a row, which wasn't a whole lot of time. I made a little song, like maybe a minute long audio thing, like audio melody idea motif, and then I also did a self-portrait, and not very like realism,
but the styles are all over the place, and I think that's almost cooler than having just these are all realism.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, that was kind of like how I was feeling day to day would influence how I would draw myself and the style I would draw myself in, and it was very interesting, but it really burned me out, but it also made me feel insanely comfortable behind Ableton, behind picking up I'm not a guitarist, but I feel like I could pick up a guitar and get the tone I want. And same thing on bass and keys and anything. It made me much more comfortable.
Right. Yeah, and so by proxy, inspired by you, I did my own spin on it and did the here's, where did also like an audio skit is what I summed it up to be, just making like a contextualized idea of a song and done. A lot of them had vocals and other nuances, different instruments used on each one. And I did mine for like 40 days, 40 nights. It's not the 50, but more biblical, I guess.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was cool. The hardest part was not I didn't do the portraits, but I tried to like shoot a short visualizer for each one, and that was like the hardest part to deliver on, being like just not being my medium at all. And I was so like I thought I would knew what I would do was doing, and it was just so difficult because I found so many limitations. Like there's not a lot of good free software out there for this to be like something I could deliver on every day. So unfortunately, like I didn't do them all. I did like maybe like 8 of the visualizers for the 40 that there were of these consecutive songs, you know, but a lot of them are really interesting. The ideas are really neat. My process for mine was I wake up and I'm going to come up with a word or maybe a turn of phrase and be thinking about that. And for the visual aspect, try to capture something that inhibited whatever phrase it was. And then on the audio, deliver on that phrase or word, being maybe through texture or the subject matter and the vocals or whatever. It was different for each one. It was a great time. It was really awesome, you know, and we didn't do anything with those. So they're just there, you know. I mean, that's why we even go in on this one Wayne G thing and that Garden Twin project.
I liked ours. Ours had a purpose. I'm not trying to shit on theirs, but
no. And
ours was endurance art, is how I qualify it.
Yeah, you know, endurance art is a cool way. Because for them, it's like, oh, I've just been stockpiling these. I've just had these forever. Now I'm gonna drop them, whatever. And I feel like you shouldn't have to do that. We shouldn't be at a point where, oh, I need more of my content. Maybe like try out something new rather than just dropping all of your old tracks, or contextualize these ideas into something a little more concise or short and sweet. I don't know. You know, I'm not going to listen to the 200 songs.
Yeah.
Ever. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not the biggest Mac DeMarco guy. So I was already doing him a disservice in that. But
I like Mac DeMarco, but I'm with you. Like I don't. There's been a few albums I haven't checked out that I don't know. You know, regrettably, maybe I should check them out. I don't know, but like
that came out.
Whatever.
The one Wayne G while I was doing the Hears after you had done the hymns.
Oh, that's cool.
I was like, oh man, this is in like the middle. I mean, so when it came out, it was definitely a burst of creativity. I was like, oh shit, like he just did this. Like I can keep doing mine. He didn't necessarily do this like endurance art, air quotes.
No,
because he didn't like make the goal to be like, I'm gonna do this for like 4 months. I'm just gonna like pump out a whole fucking song. You know?
Yeah. It's different, you know, and I don't know. So yeah, the hears and the hymns were an interesting thing for us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that it was a fun. Maybe that we could make that a viral challenge.
I don't know. Yeah, you know. Well, even today, Macy was telling me that she might take on something similar, you know, and that's awesome to see this like lineage, this little trickle down of inspiration from an idea you had, you know, of endurance art. I don't know. I like this phrase you've given it, and then for me to do something similar, and now she wants to, because it does seem like an awesome exercise, and it is. I can vouch for it. It's great to like actually figure out your medium. It's essentially Inktober, really. I mean, a little more in depth, like there was more going on, but just to do that, you know, it really strengthens the muscle if that's what you're trying to go for.
Very much so. Very much so.
I think I've heard of someone else doing something similar, and man, I'm glad you were the first person I caught doing something like this, because now it is kind of becoming a trend, as I stated earlier. But this YouTuber I watch, I don't remember his name. I'm sorry, guy, but the bald dude, nice teeth, nice eyes. Yep.
You know who you are.
You know who you are, man. He created this internet challenge to all the artists to pretty much do the same thing for like 20. There are 24 letters in the alphabet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He said
26.
Let's say it's 26. I'm sorry, everybody.
I don't know.
But if it's 26, he was like, for 26 days, do something in your chosen medium that starts with the letter of the corresponding day, for the alphabet.
Oh, that's cool.
And he put it out as like a website. He was like, people do this, like, and then send it to me. I want to see it.
That's awesome.
It is awesome, right? But I mean, there is still a little distaste because
it is
us.
just yeah.
But it's great to see him like pushing that onto people. That's fun. It's neat. I thought about getting on it because I was like, I've already done that, so this should be easy. Like a little take two for myself, and maybe try a different medium. But Inktober just isn't for ink, everybody. I don't know. Maybe you could challenge the people right now. Yeah. For October, it's around the corner.
Ooh.
Be like, make something.
Yeah, dude. For real. Like, if you make something every day for the month of October, tag us. Let us know. I'd want to see it.
Give us credit. No, I'm just playing. Yeah. I would love to just to see it. Really. Like if we give our contacts to the people, I would love to see it. I'm not like a hope dealer necessarily, but
sure,
man, there's a lot of doomers these days because shit is rough.
Shit is rough, man.
So I bring up this identity of a hope dealer. I'm not that, but I'm definitely for the Renaissance. Everybody, come on, just make shit.
Yeah, just make shit, man. Just make shit. I think that's really a just
someone told me we
got
to like burn out. Really, we got to burn bright for the last few minutes. Not that this is the last few minutes or anything, but it is stressful. You heard anyone talk about today being a silent depression?
No.
Weird. I had something on my...
That's scary to hear, though. Right. And I don't know why, but...
Dude, I saw something on my YouTube feed, like, talk about it, and then maybe we just have similar algorithms or something, but my buddy Marquise, he hits me up, and we've had maybe like a 3-day long conversation about the state of art and AI and blah, blah, blah. So he gets back to me with this thing, and he says we're in like a silent depression. I'm like, yo, I just saw this shit earlier today. Like, what a coinky dink that he hits me up with the same turn of phrase. It is scary to hear because I have to agree, right? Like, shit is crazy. Everything's so expensive. There's no access for anything. It is hard to do anything. So I mean,
it's very true. It's very true. And I feel like the more successful artists that pop up, it's almost like the harder it is for more artists to pop up.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. It's like there should be room for all of us.
With what we're trying to establish in Desert Grow, if I can ask you a question. How would you feel if others did the same thing?
Desert Grow is?
Yeah, because it's not necessarily a label, but it's a like an independent scene necessarily,
Yeah.
It's like these guys all work with each other because I know plenty of other people who just aren't in our immediate circle that are kind of like-minded but not doing the same thing. I would love to take it to them, but I would also feel awesome if people brought it out of themselves, made the same sort of content of showing off what their world is like right now.
And I think in a way, isn't that what art is? It's like packaging your experience in a way that you feel good creating. Sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't feel good to create it, but like you're packaging your world or your experience in a way for other people's to experience it, typically via metaphors.
Sure.
Is that a way you could put it?
Sure.
kind of advertising your life in a way, but more so like advertising your experience and why it's valid. And
I don't know. Yeah, because that's all social media is, right? Is like you're literally advertising your life, and that's kind of why I stick off of it for
that's true.
the time, for as long as I have been. But
that's true.
But
here we are making a podcast. You know what I mean?
That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. This is more valid to me. Like we're like, all right, let's make this like long form medium. I think there needs to be more of that, I guess. And when I bring up other people doing the same thing as what Desert Dro is trying to do, I mean the independent scene, and the morals of that. Like it really feels so communal, I guess.
Yeah.
Like everyone is trying to work with each other and come up with little side things. I guess that's all. That's what happens anywhere else for like the music scene. I just wish people could like capitalize on it, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like it's weird because,
but for the people, I don't know. Like capitalize makes me. I say that and it makes me feel weird, but I don't know. People need to take themselves legitimately in what they make in the world that they are making in the process. So
that's a real thing. Like I this is like my metaphor, right?
Sure.
Like I don't know.
Hit me.
I haven't really been thinking about this for a long time, but like in band, when I was in high school band, right? Like marching band, there was like a seniority system where the seniors on the bus got to sit in the bus first and pick their spots, and they always picked the best bus, and then the freshmen always had to sit in like the really shitty, like bumpy seats, And the senior, and I remember being a freshman being like, when I'm a senior in band, I'm gonna wait my turn to sit with the rest of the freshmen. And I tried to make that a thing, kind of. It didn't really put too much energy into it, and I quickly joined the rest of the seniors, and like just didn't care about the freshmen. And I feel like that's the way the music industry works. And I kind of, ever since I've started making music and realized how expensive everything is.
Oh yeah.
Everything.
Right.
That it's like, shit, man. This should be like I vowed to, if I ever get successful, do as much as I can to pave the way so that other people can be successful too. Because this shit ain't cool.
No.
If you have shit to create but you can't, it's like artist blue balls.
Yeah. Them ABB.
That ABB, man.
That artist blue ball.
ABB.
What a thing to identify in yourself.
Right. It's so like I think that's a real thing. I don't know. It's you really do you're right. You got to like really think about the world you're creating while you work on art. But that being said, let's see what other topics we got to roll into. We got.
Yeah, we need a quick bev here.
Ooh, cool. Bev break. Stay bevved. We got we got this would be an interesting thing. We got, well, I don't know, I'm kind of torn. We got online advertising for artists, right? Like then the need of that. I feel like we could kind of jump into that.
We could trickle off. We draw the connection between Desert Dro. Do you feel like this is a valid way of online advertisement? Do you think there's an invalid way of online advertisement?
I feel like if this was us trying to make a solely, like if we were really leaning into like comedy,
sure,
like trying to be super funny influencers, but we were trying to do that so that we can market the music that we were making. I feel like that might be the wrong way to do it. Unless we were like legitimately funny comedian.
I don't think we're trying to do that at all, really. I think we're trying to just, I don't know if you'd say put people on or what, but
we're trying to put people on to identified.
Us. Yeah, and I don't know, that feels a little too self-glorious. I feel
yeah, of course.
I feel like I said
Yeah.
identifying the world that you're creating by the art that you create, and the world you're creating as consequence. And that doesn't need to be bad. This is us. I feel like this is us in speaking on the world we're creating. No.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. You're. This is us speaking about the world that we're creating.
Because I feel like all the younger creators, I feel like that's what I was always looking for. I was like, man, how do I do it? How am I gonna like get my foot in the door? What's the first step? And now, if I could like give this to my younger self, like you do this, you just do it, man. And not enough artists do that, accept that mentality. Maybe it's like they embrace gatekeeping. Like,
sure.
I don't know, they just want art to stay pure or something. I feel like it's hard to taint art if it's really art. Either it kind of is or isn't, maybe.
Yeah.
If you're not really trying to gatekeep and you want people to just fucking expose themselves as much as possible, give as much info about their process as possible, then they should. I think gatekeeping shuts people down from ever living that. I love to see inspiration in people, both getting it for myself or giving it to other people. I don't think that is in our culture enough, in the art culture at least.
Yeah. You live to inspire life, kind of, in a way.
Yeah.
That's a silly way to say it. That's like a 2007 mom wall decor, you know. But like, you live to inspire life and others in a real way, and you create to inspire more creation. And I think that's really the point, maybe, in a way of trying to form that world that you would want to,
right,
like that you would want to come up in as an artist.
Right. We're always talking about collaboration and the power in that, and how awesome that can really be. If you work with someone else, the only result is making something that you would have never made before.
Yes.
So whether that's good or bad, that's objective for you to find out later. But I feel like that's we're just trying to foster that as much as possible.
Very much so. And
if people are in bands are kind of reserved and cut off from that idea, it is a huge disservice. I get it if you're like trying to stick to whatever genre it is. Stop it. Cut the barriers, man, and just work with everybody.
Yeah. And yeah, that's how you're going to be authentic.
Yeah.
As a band, at least,
Yeah, inside of like a 4-piece band or like, I don't know, 8 supergroups, you're like 2 bands merging. I love that shit. I don't know. I love all the punks fucking split EPs. It's all great.
That's the maybe a that's the I think that's like that's the right way to do online advertisement in a way. There's other right ways to do it,
sure.
But like using it as a real outlet to collaborate.
Oh yeah,
that's a real thing. Like that's a right way to advertise your art. Like like if Desert Dro if we found another like-minded cool collective in Iowa,
right, right.
like shit, dude, let's make a T-shirt or something. I don't know,
dude. You need them. The things that draw together, the cohesive connection.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
And we talked a little bit before the show about like kind of like whether or not like online advertisement, self-art, advertisement with your art and advertising your art online via social media, like how that relates to playing shows at venues. And I don't know. I feel like as long as both of them are really, taken and like you want to do both and you take them seriously and you try to put your creative side first, and try to be authentic, then like you can't do live shows wrong, and you can't do online advertisement, social media advertisement for yourself wrong. And it's by doing it wrong, I guess that's how you slowly gain
If I could backtrack a
followers, you
bit,
know? Yeah.
we're talking about like the fodder projects.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, is that what we're talking about right now, flipped on its head and like turned up to 12? Because really, it's like, well, this is what I make. There, maybe these people are like, this is what I make authentically on the side, you know, and they just fail to make it a cohesive body of work, and it just becomes more fodder, just a big dump project. Do you think that this mentality we're trying to project, I guess, is gonna lead to more of that?
Ooh, of like just inspiring creativity. You know,
Yeah,
I
do you
guess
think
that's interesting.
Yeah, it might harbor this idea to just make fodder.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's got to be an idea. There's got to be an idea behind it. You know, like I'm gonna take it back to like composition school because I'm really I felt like I learned something in it when I was
I would hope, right?
right yeah because if not, it's definitely at least gonna help me get a job later, right? Definitely, guys. Music school, woo. No, that's all sarcasm. But I yeah. So I learned that like for we had to write this piece for like vibraphone, and I learned that I could either just be like, look at this instrument, and like, what can it do? What sounds do I like? I'm gonna name a song called Whoop-de-doo because a song sounds like it's going whoop-de-doo because it sounds cool to me, and that's it. It's just what I thought, what sounded good on the vibraphone when I was looking at the vibraphone. Right? I feel like if that's how I wrote it, that would be fodder. But instead, I kind of was like, what am I going through in life? Well, I don't know, like there's kind of like some like themes of addiction around like what I'm like thinking about a lot, and like what little things in life. Am I addicted to video games? Am I addicted to, you know, like what's going on? And that like you know, like I just kind of led me to be like, maybe that should be what I wrote about. So I ended up being like, how can I write about addiction on vibraphone? And that's the way that I approached it, and I really liked what I made.
Man,
And
that's an awesome way to approach it.
I appreciate it, and I really do appreciate it, and I see that, and I'm like, that's the way to prevent fodder from happening.
Right, rather than being like, all right, so I'm gonna play, I don't know, maybe if you have too much theory knowledge or something, then you make fodder, start making music.
Yeah, because if like your reason, maybe because like if your reason for something to exist is like it's got this cool minor third part or something like that, it's like all right.
Yeah.
Is there what's it called? Cool minor third song.
As someone who has not any traditional training in theory, it's just not the way I think, really. Like that's not what I am thinking about when I go into a song. It is probably like, man, how can I speak on addiction in this other language, in my music, you know, and I always surprise myself. It's always so fun.
And I feel like that's the right way, or that not the right way. There's no right or wrong, obviously, in art, you know. And
but just to prevent fodder.
But to prevent fodder, exactly. You know, like come at things with ideas first. Have the art have a reason to exist, because like, you know, we were just talking about like this idea of like artistic blue balls, ABB, of like, I have this idea, but I don't have a guitar. I have this idea, but I don't have an audio interface. I have this idea, but I don't have a laptop.
That was often the case back in like high school. You know, I was working off the phone DAW, and I'm like, man, I am never going to be able to play this thing I have in my head right now. Guess I got to sample something and make literally just fodder, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, you know that exactly. When you just look at the gear that you have in front of you, and there's no real thought about the art you're making and why it's cool and why there's a reason for you to make it and for it to exist and why you're proud of it, then I feel like that's how you make fodder, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know, because I don't want to discount people who don't have a whole lot at their fingertips. You know, I just.
But if they even someone, you know, who just has
like a MIDI and that's it.
Yeah, like a MIDI controller and like cracked FL Studio 9. You know, so like old FL Studio, like something like that. Then like you can make a lot of good shit on that as long as you're not. I think the way for them to make fodder would be if they were just like, what's the best preset on here?
Right, and you go and maybe we both identified these endurance projects to be like good exercises, really, like to learn something else maybe about ourselves or about the medium we're working in.
Mm-hmm.
If you release that and it's really just like not quality, man, there's more fodder.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, I don't think.
Not that you can't make anything good, because that's definitely what a lot of the here's were for me, was some fodder, because it's like, man, I just got to make something.
But they're cool, man. There's some cool here's.
What the hell am I going to make that sounds like fly paper, So, whatever. But just that one that I'm referencing is probably one of my favorite ones, because it's so strange and off the wall.
Definitely, man. Definitely. It's that. Yeah. I feel like that's really where it gets interesting. It gets interesting. I guess let's wrap it up here.
I'm kind of falling out. I'm a little sleepy.
Let's
the coffee
do
I'm drinking is cold, so it's kind of old.
Sleepy time cold coffee. But let's end it out with just recent things we've been into, man.
Sure, yeah.
Like whether that be shows, movies. Dude, I can go first, but if you got some,
I got something. I can go.
Go. For
man,
it.
I've been really into this show called High Maintenance lately. It's on HBO. It's really good because you know me. I love some Sonder. The idea that anyone around me is living a life as vividly as me. This show is about a weed dealer, and every episode, and there are like 6 seasons, every episode is about a different client of his and the only, like, the main character in the show is the weed dealer, but he's not like the focal point. He's called the guy, pretty much.
Okay.
So it's like the story of every episode is revolving around the character that he goes to see. Maybe they're like in some great turmoil, and he's like, dude, come on. I need some tree, bro. Like my dog just died, or my wife just left me, or I'm finding out that I'm gay. So I don't know. In the first episode, I like, oh man, it's hilarious. I think this guy ends up actually smoking meth because he can't get a hold of this dude. It is weird, but it is also hilarious. It is hilarious. I'm gonna meth isn't all that funny, no.
Sure, but
No.
that's a great idea for a show. Like when you're saying that, I'm like, my non-visual head ass, like I feel like I think in like audio, definitely not visuals, and I can already picture some like awesome shots for that kind of a show. That sounds awesome.
I think it's like shot in like New York or something, somewhere in like a city. It almost looks like it's in Austin every now and then, but I think that's just because the main weed dealer dude looks like a guy I actually know out here in Austin. So there's that, but I don't know, this meth thing, if I could give some context.
Go for it, man. I need to hear the story.
This guy, he goes to these queer support groups for meth addicts, but it's kind of like a Fight Club thing where he just goes because he likes to be around the people.
Ooh,
so he goes there, and his roommate comes in and totally exposes him. She's like, he's never done any of this. He's playing with all of you. He goes in there to vent about her, but he goes, oh, Crystal this, Crystal that. But he's just talking about her. He's venting about her. So she comes in and she totally blows it for him. She's like, he's never smoked that shit. So she goes home. So she goes home, and he comes home all twacked out because he's like, I did it. I did it. I did it. I did it.
Oh,
it ends fine. Like, he did it that one time, I hope. It's also a fucking show. I don't necessarily care about this fictional character. It's rough, I know it is, but
you're like, I'm worried about some method acting.
Yeah. Oh my god. So that's the name of the episode. It's meth parentheses OD method. I think he's method acting.
Wow.
But other than that, the show's really
awesome,
good.
dude.
Like that's the one episode that is like, oh well, that's a bit of a dicey topic.
Yeah.
But the rest of it's hilarious. It honestly is pretty good because it feels like someone's always in my house smoking weed, which is like a comfort.
Yeah. Very Arizonan comfort.
Yeah, someone's just there smoking weed. Now, I don't need to be smoking at all, but it's on the TV of everyone chilling out with this one weed dealer who looks like my buddy. It's a great time. The writing is awesome. It kind of flew under the radar, I guess. It's kind of like a cult classic. Macy looked into it for me and was like, yeah, I guess people who like the show really like it. The more I watch it, though, the more I'm like, I know these people in real life.
That's so cool, man.
So it's a real like Sonder show to be like every episode is about a different bunch of characters.
Did you ever
the weed dealer?
Did you ever watch Disjointed?
Yeah, I wasn't into it. It was too like sitcom-y.
Disjointed was kind of it was good to have on in the background, I felt like, but dude, like that's like such a nostalgic show for me because that was on like I was watching that like early on in high school with like all my friends that I don't really talk to anymore. I'm like, that show, Disjointed. It was a horrible show. All the jokes were like, worthy, you know?
Yeah.
like they were not great.
No.
But that's cool, man. I'm gonna have to check out High Maintenance.
Absolutely, dude. It is pretty funny. I don't know how to describe what kind of humor it is. I'd say it's pretty witty. There's a lot of situational humor, which is up my alley.
Hell
So
yeah.
It's pretty funny. Situational as in like this dude will be like our main guy breaks his arm. So the day he gets out of the hospital, then he has to himself, his friend takes over his weed business for like the next week or so while he's healing. So he decides, our main dude decides to take shrooms and like goes out with his like broken arm, and then hijinks ensues, obviously, because he's like missing an arm.
Yeah.
And then goes to the park and shit, and that's a terrible idea for himself apparently because he lives in like a city. So there's all kinds of people there. There's
no.
Man, honestly, just watch it because I can go in and there's so many little bits that happen. It's so funny.
I'm gonna have to check that out, man. That's way like cooler than what I was gonna bring up.
Oh, yeah.
What
was it?
He already knows that I've been on my Pokemon grind lately.
Oh, yeah.
Been playing that Pokemon Scarlet. It's not amazing. They'd made the jump to 3D Pokemon, so it kind of feels like N64-y, where it's like very proto 3D, and there's a lot of like.
Is the graphics good? It's because it's not low poly, is it? Is it low poly?
The world is kind of.
Oh man.
The world's rough. The overworld's rough. Being in battles is fun, and I don't know. I've been enjoying like you can walk around and see, instead of it being like I'm attack Pokemon in this grass while they randomly jump out at me while I can't see them. It's like there's a Totodile, I'm gonna go kill it. You know what I mean? Like you can like see them in the overworld, which is kind of cool. But
rather than just coming across them randomly, that's how the old games were, right?
Yeah.
I never played any of them. But you've been on the grind. You've been watching the anime too, yeah?
Yeah, I've been in this like weird nostalgia. I had this cousin named Jacob. Shout out Jacob. And him and I would play Pokemon together a lot when we were young, and he was always like way better and way more knowledgeable about it than me, but he was like a year younger than me. So he was like my low-key Pokemon rival in real life, you know. So like I don't know, there was a time in my life when like Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you know, were like they were so goated. I think I learned how to read on Soul Silver. Like I would be like, Dad,
oh my God,
what does Pokemon Dr. Oak say or whatever, Professor Oak say? And then he'd be like, he says pick a Pokemon. I'm like, all right, what's this one's name? Because I couldn't read.
Right.
You know, so it was bad. It was bad. I feel bad for him. Like that was probably not fun.
Damn, man. Well,
yeah, it's so shout out High Maintenance and shout out Pokemon.
Yeah,
probably High Maintenance is
good. It's worth a watch. It's worth a watch because it is some good Muzak TV. It is some good TV to just have on in the background because there is still a plot, but the plot is pretty loose because you're just following around this weed dealer. So it's kind of like he's really the main character, but the story does not ever follow him really. It's
sure.
Yeah, so it's good to be like, oh whoa, like he broke his arm now? Oh no, but still that's like the only plot development.
Sure.
Every episode is kind of is pretty cool because it just changes each time. I can't say enough.
I don't know why I'm kind of imagining like Boondocks vibes. You know?
No, but I do have that on a lot. So I
Yeah?
don't like
Okay.
it. I'm an avid Boondocks fan. That shit is so good. I think that is more of like I need screaming on in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That show's a little bit more animated for sure. I
Yeah.
get it. Oh man. But all right. Well, shit. This was the Desert Dro show. Thank you guys for tuning in. You know, stay tuned for episode 2, maybe. You know. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Cut.